Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone's doing okay and everything's good in the world for you. We are getting ready to jump into the fourth part of episode 1 or season 1, episode 9, titled Hazel of the Rabbits Podcast. We're getting almost to the end of the first season. It's chugging along. So, hope everyone's enjoying the holiday season. It's getting quite cold here. So that's a thing. But, like I said, we're getting through it. We're making it. So, let's get on with this.
He pulled up a PDF on his phone and handed it to me. It was a few pages that appeared to contain, among other things, research results from a series of studies. Extremely strange and dangerous studies. Jones believes these Gatwick Institute studies are the real legacy of MK Ultra.
As I was saying in my last video, this whole progression of MK Ultra and into the Gatwick Institute and what could have possibly preceded MK Ultra has this Gatwick Institute been around under various different names and aliases and organizations, different countries, but the same group of like-minded people over the centuries. Kind of almost an Illuminati-ish type conspiracy type thing going on. It's pretty interesting. Just food for thought. Just something to bump around the brain for a minute.
I'm going to read some excerpts from that PDF for you now. R6 Subject 19 had been compliant until exposure to BSE version 1173. Post-exposure, the subject appeared slightly agitated, but not violent or fearful. 48 hours later, the subject was removed from their room and placed into observation. The subject had attempted to remove their own skin with plastic cutlery taken from the cafeteria.
Just sounds like something that the FDA would approve, to be honest with you. Just joking. Just joking. It is a joke, people. I'm just joking. But yeah, it makes you wonder what kind of things happened when just drugs, in real life. Different types of cold medicines, allergy medicines, prescribed medicines, your Oxycontin blends and your hydrocodone blends and, stuff like that. What kind of results they had in initial human trials that we'll never know about. It's just curious. I don't think we'll have anything to the extreme of people trying to take their own skin off with plastic cutlery, but it makes you wonder what we don't see behind pharmaceutical companies big door, behind their closed doors in their sealed vaults.
The subject also stared at their nurse for a full minute and then screamed until they passed out. This pattern would repeat until the subject was given enough sedative to curtail the behavior. Recommend closing R6 immediately.
Yeah, it's just, to give somebody that agitates them so much, then they have to be heavily sedated in order to keep them from hurting themselves and possibly others. Yeah.
The next page. Dr. Wilkinson has changed the formula again. BSE version 1214 includes a number of organic compound changes. The moss taken from forest and material from preserved mammoth tusks found in the ice in Siberia have been combined with Dr. Wilkinson's R5 cuttlefish extract and the base compound from R1. These are the most elaborate series of changes since the program began. Based on Dr. Wilkinson's recommendation, R7 is going to be extremely small. Just 6 in the recipient group and 6 in the control group, for a total of 12 participants. Dr. Pierce has indicated that due to the small size of the R7 group, we should run 2 bisodium ephemeral studies concurrently, R7 and R8. Wilkinson agreed.
Yeah, stuff like that makes me wonder about real-world pharmaceutical companies and the kinds of research they do and what things that are scientifically based and what things are just pulling out their ass just to see if it works or what it does to human beings. It's just one of those, this is kind of getting into that blurred zone where, yes, because of the extremes, it's fantasy or story or fiction. But at the same time, it's kind of an indictment of the pharmaceutical companies.
The R7 study produced no results. Both the group who received BSE 1214 and the control group showed no signs of movement through the barrier, no ability to hear the voices or shapes in any alternative dimensional space. The R8 study had significantly different results.
So it does make you wonder, within the context of this podcast, what all chemicals and compounds and mixtures thereof that they've used in R1 all the way up through R6 and in R7 and R8. It makes you wonder what, compounds, chemicals and stuff, real or created for the podcast, that they're using. And of course, they got to keep it, the mystery to it. So, but it makes you wonder if, with what we know now in this day and age from MK Ultra, what if the stuff that a talented writer like Terry Mills could, or Terry Miles, excuse me, if they could dream up stuff, anything worse than what we've actually done to our own people.
Subjects in the R8 control group displayed no behavioral changes, no placebo effect at all. But the subjects in the R8 study who received BSE 1296 experienced significant symptoms, including hallucinations, headaches, extreme dryness in the eyes and mouth, and intense emotional responses to the most innocuous events.
That's interesting because in my more adventurous youth, there are certain compounds that I put into my own body that, namely psilocybin, that I know from personal experience that I personally remember having some of those same side effects, I guess you'd call them, from the psilocybin. Dry mouth, dry eyes, overreaction to stimuli, both positive and negative. So it makes you kind of want to, if you have that experience or know that someone that has or have seen it, what Terry Miles and the people at the Public Radio Alliance in Minnow Beats Well, what they've personally imbibed into their cells over the years. So it's kind of interesting. If you have these experiences with these particular chemicals that you enjoy, or not enjoy, have experimented. Well, you could have enjoyed them. I mean, I don't know. Everyone has their own thing in the world. It's kind of interesting. So
each of the recipients of BSE 1296 also experienced violent outbursts, lucid night terrors, and complained of hearing the deep voice of something they referred to as the Dark Man, the Dragon, or the Dragon Man. Interestingly, each subject described the voice the exact same way.
See, that there kind of, to me, reminds me of some of the stuff that King describes in It, in The Stand, and a lot of his older, his pre-accident writings, and I can't help to wonder if that's kind of like a tip of the hat towards Stephen King.
Down to the tone and subject of conversation. Recommend closing R7 due to lack of effect, and moving forward with R8 Phase 2, based on a few slight modifications by Drs. Wilkinson and Pierce. The last page of the document was a dream journal from one of the subjects of Research Study R8, subject number 7. I'm going to read that page for you now.
This is going to be interesting. I don't remember the details from the first time that I read through it, but we'll take it's going to be interesting.
I was walking through an old building. There were a whole bunch of rooms. The man with the dragon voice guided me through the long halls, down the stairs, and into a large empty chamber, entirely made of some kind of dark hardwood. In the center of the room was a pile of large wings. They were bloody, and the dragon voice told me they had been ripped from the backs of angels, torn, like the wings from a fly.
Yeah. To me, that sounds more like a vivid hallucination versus a dream. Like I said, in my more adventurous youth, there are things that I put into my body, and that the recollection and the poetry and the symbolism seemed to me at least, to be more from an hallucination versus a dream, but being inebriated enough to recall it as a dream.
There was somebody else there, in the back of the wooden room. Somebody made of something that wasn't what I was made of. And they were covered in something else. As I slowly approached the figure, I could see that it was made of the other subjects of the study. The ones who had driven out to the woods during the last full moon. The ones who had touched the rock.
Yeah, I personally don't remember dreams in that much clarity or that much detail. So another thing you got to wonder is how much of that is being filled in by their conscious mind to try to justify the dream when they're recalling it in being awake. It just, there's those questions that don't necessarily have anything to do with the story or the plot, but just those things are what the questions my brain wants to ask.
It wasn't just made of the other subject's skin and hair. It was also part animal. The ripped and bloodied face of a deer had been roped to its head, and there was another animal fur I couldn't recognize. It gave the entire fleshy, furry, bloody thing the illusion of something feral and old. The room smelled of copper, rancid blood, and old dusty things uncovered.
I can say from personal experience from being a corrections officer for 25 years that large amounts of blood, especially like when you have an assault or something like that, for some reason, even though our blood is iron based, when you get large amounts of it that pools and starts to coagulate, it smells like copper tastes. If you've ever put a piece of copper in your mouth, put it on your tongue or under your tongue, that taste is what the smell of that kind of blood, especially in those amounts, is what you get that taste in your mouth from that smell. And I imagine there's a scientific explanation for it somewhere. I've just never bothered to look it up. But that's always fascinated me because our blood being iron based.
The story ends there. Written beneath it, in a scrawl of black felt pen, R8 suspended. All other BSE studies shut down indefinitely.
Now, what makes you wonder is if, within the context of the podcast, if how they interviewed these subjects, and if these reason for shutting all this stuff down was that they actually, at some mental level, crossed over to a different dimension, saw into this other dimension, or this H.P. Lovecraft-esque world with their mind, a third eye, as some people like to think of it.
But wait, it sounds like the study our parents took part in, study number R7, didn't result in anything happening at all.
It appears that way, but I believe it's actually the opposite.
What do you mean?
I mean, study R7 was different from the others. It involved more organic compound materials treated in unique ways. I believe there was something in there, that they somehow achieved something without knowing it. I just think it took a generation to manifest.
A latent ability that, when combined with super stressful situations, could result in some kind of interdimensional displacement?
Yes.
Now, the thing is, what I wonder is if, like, Carly had that swimming pool incident, Jones had the burning down his town incident. It makes you wonder the people that remained in those realities where the pool was set on fire and Jones did, in fact, burn the town down. It makes you wonder what their reactions were. That the version of their parents and the realities where this stuff happened, all of a sudden their child's gone. Or when they moved, that somebody else, another version of themselves from another reality, move over to take their place, whether it be willing or unwilling.
Or preventing dimensional displacement.
What do you mean?
I mean, what if the people playing rabbits are disappearing?
Like Yumiko?
Maybe.
What, you think Yumiko's not in this world?
I don't know.
Wow.
What's one possibility?
So, okay. You believe this genetic ability was dormant in the parents, but active in their kids?
Yes. And I know it sounds a little out there.
Well, it sounds way out there.
What about the fact that we shared a dream? You, me, and Emily. That has to mean something, doesn't it?
Okay, but to be fair, Yumiko knew about my dream and could have told you, and I've never met Emily, so...
What are you saying?
I'm saying... I don't know what I'm saying.
She's being defensive, and presented with the facts that she now has, there's probably this reluctance at some level of her consciousness to try to reject it because it goes against everything that we know, everything that we've been taught. So yeah, I think confronted in the same situation as Carly, I would probably have a very similar, if not exact, reaction.
I guess what I'm saying is, I want to find my friend. Jones went home. He was still worried about the people in gray, or wardens, or whatever they were, and offered to stay and sleep on my couch. I wanted to accept his offer, but I was still a bit freaked out about the whole Jones is Hazel thing, so I told him I was fine, and that I'd call him in the morning. I I took another hard look at the photos from that bathroom stall, the tiny numbers inside that pyramid below Yumiko's smiley face. There were dozens of them, small 4-digit numbers written in the same felt pen as the smiley face and the WTF stuff. But there was something else amid all the graffiti, something that didn't stand out at first. 4 words. "That's that, mattress man." It was a quote from Yumiko's favorite movie, which was actually a favorite of mine as well, a movie by P.T. Anderson called Punch Drunk Love.
See, this is going to be hard to comment on and not spoil anything. It makes you wonder if maybe Yumiko was leaving a message specifically for Carly, but it's kind of one of those things.
I looked closely at the 4-digit numbers again. There were no digits higher than 6. I grabbed the Punch Drunk Love Special Edition DVD from my shelf. I'd bought it when I worked part-time at a video store. I hadn't watched a DVD in years, and wasn't sure I even had a way to play one.
Which, that is a interesting tidbit, because most computers now don't have CD-ROMs or DVD players in them. At least basically off-the-shelf type computers. But the fact that she's wondering if she has a way to play it, and being a very technological, computer-based story, that's just kind of a neat little thing.
I dug up my old MacBook from school, and it booted up, no problem. I pressed play and started counting the time, stopping the movie when it matched up with the time each of the numbers could have represented. I followed the numbers in the pyramid clockwise. The first number was 1211. I wrote down the first line of dialogue in the film, at the time, 12 minutes and 11 seconds. Adam Sandler's character, Barry Egan, says, "Sorry about that."
And see, what I want to do is get a copy of that movie, or find a copy of them, or find it streaming, and go back and listen to it and get the numbers, then go to those points in the movie and see exactly how well it lines up with the reality.
I did the same thing for all of the other numbers, and when I was finished, I took the first letter of each word or sentence and found an ROT, or rotation code, that led to a phone number. The last 4 digits of that phone number? 6878. I called the number. It was a recorded message.
The people in gray were outside the building when I woke up.
It was Yumiko's voice. She sounded freaked out.
I ran out the side door and I didn't stop running until I made it back to the It's amazing how long you can hang out on a university campus without anyone asking questions. I found this tape in a filing cabinet in the basement of a house that was scheduled to be torn down. They'd ripped out the stairs. I had to lower a rope into the basement. I'm going to play that tape for you now. Hold on.
Biology and behavior. What's the connection?
See, it is stuff like that, just kind of cool. And the whole debate of between biology, nature or nurturing, I think it's called. Do we do what we do because it's our nature to do it? Or do we do it because of environmental inputs? You know, things like the way you're raised, the environment you're raised in, your peers, your schooling, and stuff like that.
Design and the environment. Nothing matters but this. Separating biology and the behavioral sciences from architecture is a fatal mistake. The bottom line isn't money or purpose. It's inspiration. It's biological architecture. The living home.
I know it's too dangerous to communicate with anyone. I'm sure that I'm myself anymore. Wait. I heard someone. Somebody's here. I heard someone downstairs. Someone's here.
That's kind of eerie. Especially when you when you call to a phone number and you get that. Plus the breaking glass, or what sounds like glass breaking.
That's where the message ends. It was difficult to hear. It took me a while to process that recording.
It would take me forever to process something like that. If I called the number that I found and the way she found it, and a friend, and it was a friend of mine on the other end going through the same thing. Yeah, I think it would be saying it took a while to process it would be one hell of an understatement.
It was clear that Yumiko felt like she was close to discovering something. I need to find out what that something was, or is. It's Rabbits. I'm Carly Parker. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. Until next time, stay safe. If you enjoy Rabbits, you'll love our other podcast.
And that's it for episode 9, Hazel. We'll have start 10 here next week, and hopefully we can get in some more crazy stuff. I mean, real crazy stuff. 10 is like the penultimate climax of season 1 story. So, and until next week, be safe, have fun. Hope everything's going well and your trials and tribulations are at a minimum. Peace.